Ready? All right, good morning, Fabrication 101, where we're back in the shop. Welcome back to the channel. We're back working on the Bronco. We've got a couple of weeks until the United by Bronco event up in Sand Hollow. Pretty excited about it, but I got a couple of things that I need to work on. If you noticed, hopefully, if I got it added in there earlier at the beginning of this video, I was taking it out for a little test drive, make sure the transmission was working perfectly, or well, maybe not perfectly, working okay. It seems the transfer cooler works fine, cools it off, everything seemed okay. I did find a couple of other issues, and the first one's pretty easy to deal with. My steering column, steering shaft came loose while I was driving. So here's my steering shaft that I just pulled out. The jam nut is missing off of that set screw that's supposed to be there, just like that one has it there. And it started to work its way loose. Now, there's no room for this thing to come apart, and both of these ends have been ground into like D shapes so that there's the shaft will never come out. I won't lose steering completely, but it does become loose. It does become a little sloppy. There's quite a bit of play. And I've seen and heard horror stories about people's steering columns coming apart while they're driving down the road, and I don't want that to happen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clean this thing up, and I'm going to go ahead and run a weld bead around here and around here. That way I can make sure this thing's not come out. The ends where it goes onto the column and the steering box are splined, so there's no worry there of those coming apart or working their way loose. So we're going to do this real quick. Probably wrap a wet towel around this to hopefully keep from burning up these U-joints, because I really don't want to take them apart. But we'll get this tacked together real quick, or welded together real quick, and get on to the next issue that I need to find a solution for. steering's taken care of. Hopefully that deals with any of those issues. The next thing I think I need to deal with is underneath. So let's go down below. All right, so here we are under the Bronco. When I redid and I built these nice new motor mounts, the liquid filled ones, it kind of didn't occur to me that the old motor mount was much more rigid. It had a lot more strength in it as far as in terms of like a cross member. So I think what I need to do is I need to build a cross member to go underneath this motor. These little Cummins 4BTs are pretty heavy, like 700 pounds. And I just want to make sure I've got enough strength and support down here. I think I've got a pretty easy route. Shouldn't have too many clearance issues. I think I'm just going to try to go. So I'm going to try to shoot for tying in somewhere right around here, which is right near the motor mount. I may shoot off and try to tie into the tube where it comes out of the frame. You can see that I cut off about 2 feet of the front of the frame of this thing. It's all tied in through there. This tube is plug welded from the outside. There's a bunch of brackets, a bunch of stuff tying it together. Hopefully it's strong enough, but I don't think it'll hurt to tie a little bit more of a brace in here. So I'll see if I can figure that out. But I shouldn't have any trouble getting around to the other side to tie to the frame up there as well. Shouldn't be too much trouble. So let me take some measurements, look at things a little bit more. I just noticed I've got a little bit of a coolant leak. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let's see, right there's coolant leaking. So let's see if I can figure out what's going on with that. But cross member first, I think. All right, well, hopefully you guys can see my little drawing here on the table and where I messed up. I don't know where I was getting that measurement from. The tubes coming out of the frame are 2-inch round tube. So that's what these represent. The height I need from the bottom of the tube to like the lowest amount of clearance from the oil pan is about 4 inches, and I'm hoping I can not have to go too much further than that. Because it's going to still put me pretty far below if I just use I'm going to use some 1.25" 120 wall round tube for this. 10 inches is the distance I feel like I need to clear the edge of the oil pan. And again, I'm trying to keep this nice and tight, so we're going to go ahead and ground up a piece of 1.5" 120 wall and see if we can get it bent. So part of the reason I do it like this, and this is, I guess, kind of old school, I'm still not tied into the using the computers for this stuff yet, but I have my drawing, and now I can get a really good idea of how much material I need to make this bend or make this piece of material tube. I always like to start from the center and work my way out. That way, if this bend doesn't line up exactly where I think it's going to, I can shift my marks a little bit and then get the other side exactly where I want. So like I said, we'll go ahead and drag out some tubing, get the tubing bender set up, and go ahead and see if we can get this thing made. So things kind of went a little sideways yesterday working on that tube. The first one came out really good, bent really nice, was going to fit just fine, except that when I took the front end apart to cycle the suspension, it became pretty clear that I didn't actually have the room I thought I did underneath around the oil pan. That my upper link mount on the other side was definitely going to be hitting it, so I had to come up with a new plan. And so the new plan, get my light up in here. All right, so the new plan is going to be to take and make a big gusset that's going to come along here, actually wrap around the frame a little bit, and then come along this tube here to just really tie all this together and make it nice and strong. All right, so those are all burned in there. I went ahead and didn't really want to drill any holes into them or make them fancy looking. They're just underneath. They're meant to be strong. They're welded in pretty well. You can see the one over there is all burned in as well. So anyway, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to tackle an issue I kind of realized I was running into the other day. So while I was out on the trail with it, I started kind of feeling like the steering was being a little wonky, a little weird. And a lot of it was just that loose steering shaft. But I've kind of felt like I have a little bit too much bump steer going on. And there's always going to be some with this kind of suspension system. There's not really any way to get rid of it entirely unless I go to a full hydraulic system, which I'm not quite ready to do yet. That may come at some point in the future, but I think a bigger part of my issue right now is my upper pannard mount on the frame. So this here's my upper pannard mount here, and you can see it is above my steering arm and where my hydraulic assist ram attaches. And as far as I know, and everything I've kind of read and learned and done over the past, you really want these to be at about the same height as much as possible, and to try to keep your pannard bar as flat as you can going across. My drag link right now, which is my steering link, is actually pretty flat the way things are set up, but my pannered bar's got quite a bit of angle to it. Now, I don't remember if this is this way for clearance issues, so what I'm going to do is I'm not going to cut this off. I'm going to make some brackets that we can weld along here. I'll bolt in here as well, and I'm going to go ahead and run them along underneath to tie them into this new plate I just stuck up in there. A little bit more strength, actually quite a bit more strength. Should be a lot better, but I'm going to get that all in there tacked, hook my pannered bar back up, probably hook my drag link back up, and just kind of cycle the front end, so hopefully I can make sure there's no clearance issues. So I did a little bit more CAD, cardboard aided design work here. So this is going to be the start of the new mount. I do have to make 2 of these, obviously, so I'll make them together, stack them, and go ahead and clean them up, grind them together. This will be the new bolt hole. The old bolt hole is somewhere around here, which I'll go ahead and mark as well. It's marked there. I'll drill that one. This distance here is quite a bit of leverage on those pieces, and I want to make it as strong as possible. But for next step is going to be to mark these out, get them cut out, drilled and cleaned up, and we'll go on from there. Well, those came out pretty good. I jacked it up as far as I could. I kind of ran out of jack. But I can already see some clearance issues, but I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem to manage. My pannered bar is just starting to kiss the top of the diff cover here. But I need to raise the opposite end that's on the axle way over yonder. I think I can bring it up probably 1 inch or 2 as well, and that'll help this also. There is a little bit of a binding issue between my drag link and my my tie rod, pannered bar, tie rod, drag link, pivot arm, drag link. Maybe, I don't know, I have to think about how I can deal with that. I could go back to my pannered bar on that front mount. That might help. We'll look at that later. It's been a long day. I'm kind of tired, so when you're tired, you start making kind of silly mistakes, silly choices. So I'm gonna pick this up tomorrow. Hopefully we can get this all wrapped up tomorrow, because I don't have a whole lot of time before I'm going to Sand Hollow. So we'll see you in the morning. Well, that one went pretty easy, pretty straightforward. Looks like everything's going to be okay. Everything's tight. There's not a ton of room in here. I did move my drag link over to the front hole just to see if it would help with anything. It made some things better and it made some things worse. So I think I'm actually going to put it back where it was because it starts to crash into the steering ram, which hitting the tie rod is better than crashing into the steering ram. So I think I'll put it back there. Everything else gets really, really tight really quick. And as long as I don't go out of my way to jump this rig, I think it'll be okay. I can get within about an inch of everything I need, and there's nothing super important that's going to get hit. It's just the panhard bar is going to kind of start to contact the top of the diff cover. Nothing's going to hit the oil pan or anything like that, so I'm not too concerned about that. So we'll go ahead and get these guys welded in. I'm going to go ahead and probably going to go ahead and weld up the back side of this with a piece just to make sure this doesn't have any twists that way. And same thing on the other one on the other side. And then this will all be done, I think, at least until I find the next problem. Everything's put back together. Everything looks pretty good. Everything's lined out. I did make a new drag link. That tubing, if you're curious, is 1.25" 500 wall DOM, so it's a 1/2 inch thick. Pretty heavy duty stuff. Pretty easy to just go ahead and take, and you do have to drill it out to 11/16, but then it's really easy to thread to 3/4 fine thread. And so I've done a lot of links or steering linkages with this stuff. Doesn't bend real easily, and it works really well. So hopefully it keeps holding up on this thing. But everything looks pretty good. So we're about wrapped up, pretty much ready to go to Sand Hollow and the United by Bronco event. I got one more thing that I need to take care of. Hell yeah, brother. Got some tire stencils on there from Cletus McFarlane. Anyway, that was the last piece of the kind of puzzle. I mean, not really, honestly, but kind of last thing I wanted to try and get done before I take off and head for United by Bronco. Hopefully everything goes well, and the next video you guys will see will be part of hopefully footage from that, the trip there, the trip back, all that kind of stuff, and some trail footage. So thank you guys so much for tuning in to this episode of Fabrication 101. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you can keep current on the videos, all that good stuff. And I will see you guys on the next episode of Fabrication 101. In the meantime, do me a favor, do yourself a favor, and go build something. All right, let's do a quick test. Make sure my microphone is working. Good morning, Fabrication 101.